Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're bringing you a massive, honestly kind of mind-bending explainer that tracks one of the most explosive shifts happening in our world right now. We're breaking down the rapidly expanding sphere of artificial intelligence. And I mean expanding in the most literal sense possible. We're talking about AI moving from the code on your screen right into the palm of your hand, and eventually all the way up into Earth's orbit.
So, to get us started, what do a $300 basketball and an orbital space station actually have in common? I know, a few years ago that would have totally sounded like the setup to a ridiculous joke, but today, it's a completely serious question that perfectly illustrates how fast AI is normalizing what used to be pure science fiction. Both of these things represent the physical frontiers where AI is currently setting up shop.
All right, here's our cognitive roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the era of AI agents, then look at how AI is entering the physical world. After that, we'll check out the path to superintelligence, weigh the cost of outsourcing our own understanding, and finally look at AI's absolute final frontier, space. Okay, let's jump right into part one, the era of AI agents and the evolution to autonomy.
Look at the difference here. For the last couple of years, we've all kind of been living in the era of standard chatbots. You know the drill. You open an app, type a prompt, and wait for an output. It's a totally passive relationship. But as the source material points out, everything is evolving into agents. Agents are basically the final user interface. Instead of you clicking through a bunch of different software or typing out commands, autonomous agents are built to work quietly in the background across all your apps, just orchestrating your digital life for you. You really won't interact with software menus anymore. You'll just talk to your agent.
And this is a perfect example of what true autonomy looks like today. The source discusses Google's recent developments, specifically calling out capabilities like Gemini Spark. This isn't just a chatbot answering questions. Look at what it can do. It's designed for 24/7 autonomous background operation. It orchestrates really complex workflows, like independently going into your inbox and schedule to move things around based on your preferences. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this represents an agentic layer being draped over the massive surface area of the software we already use. It's doing the work for you, even when you aren't actively looking at a device.
Moving on to Section 2. AI enters the physical world, stepping off the screen. Because these agents, they aren't staying trapped in our web browsers.
Which brings us to a very specific number, $300. According to our source material, this is the price of a newly released AI-powered basketball. Yep, you heard that right. This isn't some theoretical concept or a lab prototype. This is a physical product people are getting in the mail right now. It really anchors this massive technological shift squarely in physical reality.
So, how exactly does an AI basketball work? Well, the source breaks down the mechanics. First, a tiny accelerometer inside the ball tracks the physical trajectory of your shot. The arc, the spin, the momentum, the whole shebang. Second, a built-in Wi-Fi chip sends that data directly to your phone. And third, a local large language model, basically the AI's brain, living right there on your phone, analyzes that physical data and provides real-time verbal coaching straight into your AirPods. It is literally translating a physical action into actionable AI coaching, telling you how to adjust your shot arc. It's just a completely unique, non-text data source feeding directly into an AI model.
Now that we've seen how AI operates on that micro-physical level, let's shift up the ladder of abstraction to Section 3, the path to superintelligence. How are these systems actually scaling towards AGI?
The source outlines a really fascinating debate currently dividing the most brilliant minds in tech on how we actually achieve artificial general intelligence. Looking at the two main philosophies, you've got one approach championed by companies like OpenAI and Anthropic. They believe in language and code scaling. Their idea is super straightforward. Scale up the text and code data, rely on recursive self-improvement, and basically let the AI bootstrap itself to superintelligence. But then, on the flip side, proponents like DeepMind's Demis Hassabis and Meta's Yann LeCun argue for omni-world models. They think language is just an input-output mechanism. To achieve true intelligence, they argue an AI needs a fundamental, spatial, and physical understanding of the universe, a true world model that goes way beyond just text.
And, regardless of which philosophy wins out, the speed of progress right now is just blinding. The source shares this perfect anecdote. On day one, people using AI to solve complex math problems were literally getting mocked online for having, quote, AI psychosis. Basically, critics said they were just hallucinating breakthroughs. But look what happens a mere 30 days later. A new iteration of an AI reasoning model officially produces an original mathematical proof, successfully disproving an 80-year-old geometry conjecture posed by the famous mathematician Paul Erdos way back in 1946. In one single month, society went from calling these users crazy to watching AI make verified frontier mathematical discoveries. No way, right?
But before we get completely lost in all this technological hype, we really need to pause and examine the philosophical cost of this transition. Section 4, the cost of outsourcing understanding.
Our source material zeroes in on a really profound warning here. As these AI agents become more and more capable, it becomes incredibly easy to just outsource almost everything. I mean, you can outsource menial tasks, you can outsource your data gathering, you can even outsource the drafting of super complex research. But the absolutely crucial point is this: you cannot outsource understanding.
To really hammer this home, the explainer brings up the legendary physicist Richard Feynman. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it. The source shares this really telling anecdote about seeing fitness influencers on social media, clearly just reading AI-generated scripts about complex biology topics, like peptides. They sound incredibly smart because they're using this top-shelf vocabulary spit out by an LLM, but they possess exactly zero actual comprehension of the subject. It really makes you wonder, if we just take the path of least resistance and let machines do all our thinking, do we risk becoming a society that can read really sophisticated scripts but possesses zero deep underlying knowledge?
Finally, let's zoom way out from our own individual understanding and look at the cosmos. Section 5. AI's final frontier. Space. To understand why tech giants are suddenly looking to space, you really only need to know one magic number: $200 per kilo. Right now, AI's massive compute and energy demands are seriously straining Earth's infrastructure, but the source points out that once the cost of launching a payload into low Earth orbit drops to around $200 per kilogram, launching orbital AI data centers actually becomes economically viable, like on par with building them down here on Earth. And based on the current trajectory of companies like SpaceX, we could easily hit that number within the next decade.
Okay, but why put a data center in space in the first place? Well, there are some pretty massive perks. First, you have literally endless access to solar energy, with absolutely zero weather interruptions. Second, space offers infinite cooling, which is a huge bottleneck for servers here on Earth. Third, tech companies have actually already run tests proving that specialized AI hardware, like Google's TPUs, can survive the high radiation environments of space for 5-year missions without frying. And finally, these satellite data centers can just communicate with each other using laser constellations to maintain incredible bandwidth.
Because these macro trends are shifting so unbelievably fast, the source material conducts a really fascinating thought experiment. If you had a hypothetical $10 to allocate across upcoming massive tech IPOs, how would you split it up? Neutrally reporting the source's debate here, one thesis allocates $6 to Anthropic, betting that their recursive coding models will create an unbeatable intelligence flywheel. It then allocates $4 to SpaceX, betting that they'll eventually just hold a monopoly over space infrastructure and off-planet AI data centers. And interestingly, this specific hypothetical allocates $0 to OpenAI, citing a perceived loss of momentum and focus compared to its direct competitors. It's just a fascinating look at how industry insiders are evaluating the whole landscape right now.
Which brings us to our final slide, and a pretty provocative thought to leave you with. From an AI basketball analyzing your wrist movement, to autonomous agents quietly managing your schedule, all the way up to solar-powered data centers floating around in orbit, the sphere of AI is expanding everywhere at once. So the real question we have to ask ourselves is this: are we fundamentally unprepared for the full physical integration of AI by the end of 2026? Like, how will you adapt when the AI is no longer just on your screen, but built right into the very fabric of your reality? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us for today's Explainer. Keep learning, and we'll see you next time.